All right, I'm here with an updated look at my PlayStation 5 collection for 2023. PlayStation 5 is in a great place right now. I really feel like I'm very happy with where it's at, with where it's going. I wish I knew a little bit more about what the Sony exclusives are looking like coming up because we don't really know too much. But I think as far as what we have so far is pretty stellar, and what we have, at least that we know about, is pretty exciting too. So I'm surprised that we're at year three of PlayStation 5. I feel like we've covered so much ground with it already. Um, Compared to PlayStation 4, 2016, think of year three there. It's kind of crazy. There wasn't that many, big games that hit it yet. We had like Uncharted 4 was probably the biggest game at the time. The PlayStation 4 Pro came out in 2016 in year three, so we're already past that, and we've not heard anything about officially a, mid-gen console upgrade. But I'm really happy with PlayStation 5. It's a great place to play PlayStation 4 games, obviously, so it gets a lot of use. But I'm going to go through my PlayStation 5 collection. It's been pretty steadily growing throughout the last year since I updated this. So we'll start off with Alan Wake Remastered. So I tried this one out around when it came out and didn't really get into it, but I played through it again, and I got into it. I enjoyed it, although I hate the combat in this game. I think it's pretty just not fun. I really like what they're going for with it and everything. And I played through Alan Wake 2, which of course doesn't have a physical copy. And I think that's my favorite game of the year. Alan Wake 2 is just really, really good. So I'm glad I played through Alan Wake 1, even if I wasn't crazy about it. I like the story and I like the setting and, the atmosphere and everything. The gameplay is not great for me, but second game improves on all of that and is awesome. And this is a good remaster too. They did a good job with this remaster. So no Energizer batteries, no Verizon, but what can you do, I guess. Balan Wonder World. So this is obviously the Yuji Naka disaster platformer. And I don't even know. I got this game for pretty cheap because I was like, I just want to try it. I just want to see what it's like. And it's bad. If you have really young kids, like I'm talking like this is the perfect game to get a child who is maybe like 3 or 4 to learn how to play video games. And maybe that's what they're going for. I don't think it is, though. This might be good for them if you can get it for really cheap. But when I was playing this, it felt like the neurons in my brain just weren't firing. It is mindless. It's stupid. It's bizarre. This is one of the most baffling games of all time, if nothing else. So interesting to even think about. The Callisto Protocol. I liked this game. It's not amazing. It's nothing mind-blowing. This is Glenn Schofield, who now has left the studio striking distance, but he started up a studio with Krafton, which is an interesting choice. Krafton, of course, is behind PUBG and everything like that, Korean company, and they started up a California-based studio to make a kind of Dead Space spiritual successor, and it's not really a Dead Space spiritual successor. It's nowhere near as good as Dead Space or the remake, which we'll get to in a second. But for what it is, if you can I got this game day one. I paid $70 for it. I don't regret it. I mean, it is short, but I don't really care. I had a good time with it. But I feel like this is this generation's The Order 1886, where if you have your expectations like in check and you can get this game for cheap, I think you'll enjoy it. I think it got kind of overhated. The updates definitely, improved the game as well. There were some updates and stuff to it that made some of the speeds faster. You could skip the death animations, which I find it kind of funny. They were like, yeah, we put all this time and effort into these death animations. Everyone's like, all right, yeah, I want to skip these because they take too long. But if you can play this one, you like horror games, you like this kind of thing, and you can get this game for like $10-20 now. Highly recommended. I mean, I'll say it that much. If you can get it for cheap, I recommend it. I think you'll have a good time with it. It's a good, bust it out in a weekend kind of game. Control Ultimate Edition. So I have this sealed because I got this on PlayStation Plus. I played through it on PlayStation Plus, and I really was enamored by it. I really liked it a lot. So I was like, I'm just going to get a physical copy for the collection because I liked it a lot. But played through it on PlayStation Plus. So if I were, need to get it again, or I don't have PlayStation Plus, I have access to it. But I really liked this game a lot. I really like this Remedy connected universe, the Alan Wake Control, Alan Wake 2 connected universe they're going for. I think it's very interesting and very bizarre. And I just think the gameplay in this one's a lot of fun. I think it's really interesting aesthetic, really unique game. Enjoyed it quite a bit, so highly recommended. All right, as then we get to Dead Space. Dead Space remake here. So before this came out in January. I got it day one because I'm a big survival horror fan. I actually went back and played the original Dead Space, and I was like, yeah, this is good. But when I hear people say like this is the best survival horror game of all time, I'm like, it's not even anywhere close to best survival horror game. But I gotta say that this remake is excellent. This is a great remake. Everything I didn't like about the original is completely gone, redone. It's different in certain ways, and I'm glad I played the first one like a couple months before I played this one because I was like, this is different, or this is a little, changed just a bit, or the layout's a little different here. It's really clever and it's really good. And I mean, there's nothing better in a survival horror game than a good stomp where you can, crush the alien head or whatever. It's awesome. Awesome game. I don't think Dead Space is necessarily very scary. I don't know. I'm at a point with survival horror games where I can't get scared by them, so I have no idea. But I might not be the best person for that, but I just think that this is a very fun, very well made game. EA Motive really, really showed up for this one because I was a little bit concerned with Motive. Their track record wasn't great. They only ever really did that horrible Star Wars Battlefront 2 single player, and then they did that Star Wars Squadrons game. So they never really did much of anything, but they not only did a fantastic remake of Dead Space, but they also, added their own twist to it and really improved it, I think, from the original. So very impressive game. Very well done. The DioField Chronicle. I have not played this one yet. There's going to be a decent amount of games that I grabbed for really cheap during a GameStop sale that they were doing that I just have yet to play. So the DioField Chronicle is one of them. I think this game, like the battle system, looks pretty cool. I think this could be an interesting one. I just have not had a chance to play it yet. So there was this era where Square Enix was really released like 20 games within 3 months or something, and then no one bought any of them, and then they got discounted. So Elden Ring. So I've never gotten into a Souls game, and I still really haven't with Elden Ring. Elden Ring's the first attempt I gave it. I got Elden Ring, played some of it. I'm like, this is interesting. I could see myself getting into this. And then I woke up the next day with horrible pain in my abdomen and had to get my gallbladder removed. So never went back to Elden Ring after that. That's the story. I mean, that really is the story. I had to get my gallbladder removed, and then I never went back to Elden Ring. Maybe one day. I'd like to give it another shot. I mean, I know it's a great game, but maybe one day. Another one of these Square Enix games that I got on a good clearance and then never played, Forspoken. So I always thought this game looked cool. I was always, agreed with the idea that every time they showed this game, it had maybe the most cringy writing of all time. And I don't think that's an unpopular opinion by any means. But her just being like, did I just move that with my mind? I'm seeing freaking dragons. Like the writing's atrocious from everything I think. My camera is freaking out on this game. They're trying to center in on her face, and then it is just, I don't know what it's doing with the lighting. But I'll keep it brief because it is hideous. But I think this game still looks fun. I'd like to give it a chance at some point. I got this for like $12.50 or something ridiculous. But I'd like to give it a chance and at least try it. Luminous is dead now, but I liked Final Fantasy 15. I feel like they can make a fun combat and fun world, so maybe one day. Let's get the camera lighting back to where it should be. I don't know what was up with that. I think a mixture of the lighting kind of bouncing off of the plastic wrap and then also just the way it wanted to focus. Crisis Core Final Fantasy 7 Reunion. I have this under Final Fantasy. I know it's technically Crisis Core Final Fantasy, but this is a pretty cool kind of remake. I don't know. It's hard to say. This is, I guess, more of a... There's like a difference between remake, remaster, but I see remaster as like it's just kind of up-resed, but it's the same game. This is one of the kind of Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition version where it's technically just a remaster with new assets. So I don't know, but there's new voice acting as well. They're bringing in the cast from the Final Fantasy VII remake and making this more in line with that kind of universe. So that's pretty cool. But this is a fun game. Definitely shows itself as a PSP game, but I never played the game on PSP. and enjoyed my time with it on PlayStation 5. So, yeah. Final Fantasy 16. I liked Final Fantasy 16 quite a bit. I thought this game was really awesome. Just a really high quality game, and just impressive boss battles, really impressive set pieces, just really awesome set pieces. I don't want to spoil too much, but there's some super cool stuff. And man, it's doing it again. Anytime there's a face, it really wants to kind of ruin my lighting. I have no idea what's up with that. No clue. Very weird. Don't zoom in on the face. I don't know. But I really enjoyed this game. I think the combat's super fun. I think the story gets a little, I feel like the story loses steam after a certain point. And my biggest complaint about this game is I think it's overly long. I think they could have probably cut 10 hours off this game pretty easily. I'm not impressed with the side content. I thought the side content was just kind of like, the side quests weren't very good. And there's some stuff in the middle of the game that feels like padding, where it feels like they're just making you do a side quest for the sake of adding time to the game. But as far as everything else, I'm very, very impressed with this one. One of the best games of the year. Really cool return to form for Final Fantasy, and interesting new direction for the series for sure. And Creative Business Unit 3 did a great job with this one. Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. This is a bizarre game where it's, Team Ninja made a game in the Final Fantasy 1 universe about the 4 Heroes of Light and everything. Very strange. Hilariously bad dialogue. The story is terrible. I don't know what's up. I played this one co-op with 2 other friends, and it's fun in co-op. At some point that it kind of just says like, it railroads you and is like, all right, you can't play the game, the final couple chapters in co-op anymore. So I never finished it, but fun co-op game. You can get it for pretty cheap now. And if you have a couple other players, it's cross-play between PS4, PS5. If you have a couple other players to play with, it is a pretty enjoyable time. Ghostwire Tokyo. This is one of those games I regret never finishing because I really liked it a lot. I think it's really fun, and I like the kind of Doctor Strange moves that you do. Very interesting game, and I just never got around to finishing it. I want to restart it again and play it because I feel like it'd be a fun game to platinum too. I think the open world design is pretty interesting and just fun traversal and fun gameplay. So I like this one a lot. Would recommend this one as well. I like Tango. Tango Gameworks is a really cool studio. They're under Xbox now. They did Hi-Fi Rush, which I haven't played because I don't have an Xbox, but I played The Evil Within 1 and 2 last year, and 1 is a little rough around the edges, but 2 is a great game. 2 is an awesome survival horror game if you've never played it. God of War Ragnarok. Another, Sony first party, and I think this is a stellar game. I never cared too much for God of War before this reboot trilogy. Not trilogy, there's not a third game, there probably won't be. This new reboot duology, but they got me. I liked these games a lot. I think I like Ragnarok a little bit more, but just a very impressive game. Another game that has a little bit too much padding, like could have shaved a few hours off of it. It'd make a little tighter experience, but just a really satisfying game. Combat is... I really like the combat in the God of War reboot games because you can't argue that it's a button masher. You really have to play well, you have to play smart, and it's fun. Boss battles are fun. Story is really good, really well acted. Enjoyed this one quite a bit. Gotham Knights. So this game, something's up with Warner Brothers because this game, it was WB Montreal's first game in 9 years since Arkham Origins. And then Suicide Squad from Rocksteady is going to be the first game from Rocksteady in 9 years since Arkham Knight. So something's up over there. This game is fine. I didn't finish it. I actually enjoyed what I played of it. I just never got around to finishing it. I just played as, I just ignored all of the whatever stuff, the co-op stuff, and I just played as Batwoman like the whole time. And it's fine. It's not as good as like Arkham Asylum, but it's still a decent game. I'm really disappointed though. That Suicide Squad game looks really bad, And it's disappointing that Rocksteady kind of wasted their time with that. Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga. This is kind of a departure from my camera is trying to zoom in on the Lego Luke Skywalker face. I don't know what's up with that. It is focusing on that. It has a little square around it, but I have no idea. But they are kind of a different type of Lego game. Pretty big, almost too big. Covers all nine Star Wars, main movies. And fun time. It's a Lego game. It's a little bit more AAA. It's a little bit more different than what you would expect. And I kind of prefer the old formula better, I hate to say, but still a fun game. And I always say the Lego games are great if you were trying to get kids or someone who's not too into video games or never really played video games before, to teach them how to play video games. They're simple. There's some simple problem solving. There's some simple puzzles, simple combat, a good way to teach you how to use both sticks in a pretty easy way. And they're not punishing. They're easy. So I always say the Lego games are great for teaching kids or just someone who's never played video games very much how to play video games. Life is Strange True Colors. I played this one. I didn't finish it. I liked the first Life is Strange game. I never played the second one, and then I just jumped into this one, and I enjoyed what I played of this one. I just never got back to it. I'd like to start it over again and get to it at some point, but there are so many games to play. There's so many. But I feel like they're leading up to something with these, right? I don't know. Like a Dragon Ishin. This one came out earlier this year. I played through it. This is a different spin on the Yakuza games. Takes place, feudal Japan. Very, very fun, kind of different way of looking at the series. New hub world, new kind of things that you can kind of explore. So you have all the classic Yakuza characters, but they play different roles. They have different names, and they're these different characters, but it's still the same models. So that's pretty fun too. Enjoyed this one quite a bit. There's different, combat where you can use a sword or you can use gun and sword. Enjoyed this one quite a bit. Side content's good. Story's pretty good. So, yeah. This was an older game. This came out to PS4 in Japan back in, I think, 2014. So this is like a semi-remaster of it that we're finally getting over here. And hopefully they do that with some more titles in the series that we never got. Lost Judgment. This is another, Yakuza-style game. Same developer, Ryuga Studio, and I really enjoyed this one too. I think that they have a good thing going. It's doing this again with the lighting. I'm sorry. They have a good thing going right now with Yakuza, or Like a Dragon, what they're calling it now, is where the main series, we got Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth coming out in January. That's the turn-based games now, and then if you want to stick with Judgment, those are the beat 'em up style games. And I like the stories of the Judgment games a lot. They're a lot different. So even though it takes place in the same world and has a lot of the same activities, and same places, it's completely different style of storytelling, completely different, idea, playing as a detective rather than playing as an ex-Yakuza, and the kind of things that you can do with that. So I like these Judgment games quite a bit. Hopefully they continue on with them. I think they are. There was some drama with the studio that the actor who plays the main character not wanting to do, PC ports and everything, and maybe not continuing the series, but I think that's resolved. I think they're going to keep going with it. And I hope they do, because I really like the stories. I've really found them interesting, so. Got here Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy. So this is kind of one of the big surprise games of this gen so far. When they were showing this game off, I didn't think it looked great. They didn't show it very well, and then it was coming right off of a year later from the Avengers game, which was from Square Enix, which was just a big disappointment. But I had a blast with this game. This was one of the best games of the past couple of years. Really good story with the characters. Great characterization of them. I really like the, it's easy to be like, this is the, the Temu version of Guardians of the Galaxy. This is the rip-off Great Value version. It's a little easier when you see Spider-Man, because we've had so many Spider-Man, iterations, but you see the Guardians of the Galaxy from the James Gunn movies, and you're like, yeah, these are the definitive versions of the characters. So any other characters or versions of the characters are gonna seem kind of lame in comparison. Or at least you would think that, but they don't do that. Like we saw the Square Enix Avengers game where we're like, these aren't, this version of the Avengers, this is not the Avengers we know from the movies, and it felt weird. But this feels completely natural. This is really great. And a lot of fun. I like the combat quite a bit. I like the story. They have some really well-designed worlds and some really interesting world design that I thought was fantastic, and highly recommend this one. Eidos Montreal, very talented studio with this one, and they are now under the Embracer Group, so hopefully they don't die like everything else under the Embracer Group. But when they were owned by Square Enix, they weren't, being probably, treated as they should have been, because they put out a great game that kind of went under the radar. Got some Spider-Man, Marvel Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and Marvel Spider-Man 2. I really like these Insomniac Spider-Man games. Miles Morales was the PS5 launch game, kind of an interlude game between Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2. It's good. It's a good length for a $50 game. Doesn't overstay its welcome. Fun time. Spider-Man 2 is really, really great. So I just platinumed this one last week and had a great time with it. I appreciate what they're doing with this kind of Spider-Man universe, where it's what you know, but they're kind of pulling from everything. There's classic Spider-Man, there's more modern Spider-Man. They're pulling from everything. And I'm not, Spider-Man's my favorite superhero, but I'm not going to pretend like I'm some kind of comics expert. I don't read Spider-Man comics. But it's just cool seeing like, oh, okay, so they're putting this spin on this character, or they're taking this classic Spider-Man story and they're altering it this way, merging it with another Spider-Man story. And I think that's awesome. And some of the stuff they're doing with the characters is super awesome, and how they're just making this world where I think this is like probably my favorite iteration of Spider-Man that I've seen on screen, just because of the ways that they can be like, yeah, this is adult Spider-Man. We have teenage Spider-Man with Miles, but we have adult Spider-Man. He's been doing this a while. So he's already established with Mysterio, and he's already established with the Shocker and Scorpion and all these classic characters. And then he's, meeting up with these new villains that he's seeing. It's a great mixture of that, and I think it's awesome. Traversal is fantastic too. There's nothing more fun than swinging around as Spider-Man. I like the stealth segments a lot. They're really fun and creative. Spider-Man 2 actually pares things down a lot from Spider-Man 1. It feels like a shorter game to platinum and to beat. And I think it's just a really good length, really well paced. Just doesn't overstay its welcome. I think it took only 27 hours to platinum, and it felt like time well spent. I had a great time with it. And I feel like they kind of cut down on some of the gadgets too. And some of the side content from Spider-Man 2, much better than Spider-Man 1. I feel like all of it had a point. All of it ended kind of somewhere. It had like a good resolution, interesting setups for the future. I think they have a good thing going here where they set themselves up with several plot lines. Some of them can be kind of followed up in DLC that I'm sure that they will do. And some of them can be followed up in a third game, which I'm sure they're also going to do. And Insomniac, I think, is probably the great PlayStation studio. They've really showed themselves time and time again. And just think about them with PlayStation 5 is Miles Morales at launch. 2021, we get Ratchet and Clank. And now we get Spider-Man 2 2023. And they have Wolverine probably either end of next year or 2025. They're really pumping them out. I'm interested to see Wolverine and excited to see more from them. So, awesome games. The Quarry. So this is a Supermassive's game. Supermassive did Until Dawn, and this is kind of their next of their main interactive horror games. So they had that Dark Pictures anthology, but this is like more of a full game. This was a full $70 release when it came out. I don't think I'd recommend it for that, but you can get it for pretty cheap now. And I had a good time with it. It's a fun game, knock it out in a weekend. Fun interactive horror game. I know people liked Until Dawn better, but I did play Until Dawn, and I played this one, and I enjoyed this one quite a bit. So, yeah, it's a good time. I like these interactive horror games like that. I'll have to get more into them. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Once again, Insomniac absolutely killing it. Just a fun game. Just a fun game. I know some people complain about like the story, and this one's a lot dumbed down. I feel like this one wasn't as funny as some of the older Ratchet and Clank games that are actually kind of genuinely pretty funny. You know, they're not like laugh out loud funny, but they're funny in the sense where it's like, oh, that's cute. That's, you know, that's clever. That's interesting. But um, I don't play Ratchet and Clank for the story. I think the weapons and gadgets and stuff like that are fun in this. Combat's pretty fun. Really good world design. So another one, you know, definitely worth playing if you have PS5. Still PS5 exclusive besides the PC port, but you know. Resident Evil 4 remake. Resident Evil 4 remake is so good, guys. It's so good. Um, Resident Evil 4 is already a classic, but when you remake it at like this high of a level, it's incredible. Just a stellar game. And they've done such a wonderful job with these Resident Evil remakes. And the modern Resident Evil after Resident Evil 6, Resident Evil 7 onward, has just knocked it out of the park. I feel like the weakest game was Resident Evil 3, and even though that is an 8 out of 10, you know, solid game. But really excited to see where they go with Resident Evil next. This game is fantastic, and uh, it could be interesting. Maybe we see a 5 remake and they rework that game a lot. Maybe, you know, I think we'll see Resident Evil 9 next, but maybe we'll see Code Veronica and Resident Evil 0 and get all these games kind of remade. Either way, Resident Evil 4 gets a huge recommendation from me. It's the classic, but in like the best way possible. And then we have Resident Evil Village, Resident Evil 8. Resident Evil 8 is also fantastic. Uh, I like this first person take on Resident Evil. I think it's really interesting. They have something really cool where Resident Evil, you know, this current trilogy, 7, 8, and I would presume 9, are in first person. We have classic, you know, over the shoulder style Resident Evil with Resident Evil, you know, remakes. And then they can do the action style Resident Evil if they ever brought like Revelations back or anything like that. So just a really cool place where they're at with Resident Evil. And Resident Evil Village, so good. The castle sequence, I feel like it's a little front loaded. The castle sequence is one of my favorite sequences in any Resident Evil game. It's so well done. And then you have right after it, probably my favorite sequence in Resident Evil, which with the little creepy dollhouse. So good, so good. And I feel like the second half of the game is not quite as good as the first. The factory and the kind of watery area is not quite as good, but it's still really good. Great setting, great game. Resident Evil 8 is awesome. Returnal. This is a game I can really respect. You know, Housemarque, known more for arcade kind of, you know, smaller scale games, doing a full kind of roguelike third person shooter. Plays really well. I just don't really like roguelikes. So I respect this game a lot. It's tough as nails, but I just don't really like roguelikes. They've never been my thing. I can't get into them. So respect this game a lot. It's a cool game, but not quite for me. Sackboy Big Adventure. This is a fun little platformer. It's nothing stupendous, but good time. I played this one in 4-player co-op online with some friends. Online's a little bit buggy, but we beat the game and like 100%ed it pretty much together, so had a good time there. But you can get this one for cheap. It's a solid little platformer time. It reminds me of like a not as good version of Mario 3D World. It's like if you took Mario 3D World and made it like maybe 60% as good, you would have this game. So fun little time. Let's center these games a little bit better. Scarlet Nexus. This is like an action RPG from the Tales of team. And I liked it. I think the combat's pretty fun. I didn't finish it. The story got to a point where I was like, this is nonsense. I don't even know what's happening anymore. I don't care. But the combat is super fun, super well done, like character action, JRPG combat. You can throw, you throw things around. It kind of reminds me of Control a little bit, but you can get this game for cheap. I recommend it. I think it's a lot of fun. Kind of an underrated one. Really cool setting. It's a shame that the story was kind of a dud because the setting is very cool. Sonic Frontiers. This was one I did a stream of actually the day it came out. I played it for like 4 hours, and then I never went back to it. It was fun. It was fine. Not really what I'm looking for out of Sonic, but I'm not going to pretend that I'm the biggest Sonic fan in the world anymore. So I would prefer something more along Generations, but I give them credit for at least trying something new, and it wasn't horrible. I had no faith in this game when this came out, and they tried something new and it wasn't horrible. So, shout out to them. I mean, not exactly glowing praise. You tried something new and it wasn't a complete disaster. Isn't exactly glowing praise, but, you know. Soul Hackers 2, very weird that they did a sequel to Soul Hackers, you know, old Sega Saturn game. But tried this one out. The camera was like so bad in the dungeons and everything that I just couldn't get through it. I heard they fixed the camera. I'd like to try this one out because I like this kind of gameplay, but I don't know. I feel like this one kind of came and went a little bit from Atlas, but would like to give it a second chance. Didn't play too much of it. Star Ocean, the Divine Force, another one that I got sealed for very cheap. And I don't know anything about this one. I know the last Star Ocean game wasn't great. I think this one's all right, but I don't know anything about this. I don't have enough games left to really do a great stack. I'll just do like this. Here, how's that? Looks like crap, but you know what I'm saying. Tales of Arise, another one that I played a little bit and then never got back to. I want to because I've heard great things, but just haven't tried it out yet. I was getting a little bit burned out on Tales. I didn't play Berseria because I thought Zestiria was not good. From what the little bit I played of it, I was like, this isn't what I'm looking for. But this is like a kind of reinvention of the series, and I'd like to give it a shot because I've heard good things. Valkyrie Elysium, another one that I've heard, pretty solid things about. I got for cheap from that deal, that GameStop, half off deal. So one day. And then the last game, I played a little bit of this one and I'd like to come back to it, but I was not in the right headspace for this. White Day, a labyrinth named School. So this is a Korean survival horror game, kind of an older game, very low budget. It's just like a horror game that takes place in a school. I was, I'm interested in it for sure. I played it and I was like, this is cool, but I'm not in the headspace right now for a low budget kind of crappy horror game. But at some point I will be, and I'll definitely be looking forward to checking this one out. So, but I wanted to get a PS5 copy because this is one of those games that I could see, getting hard to come by in the future. And this was another one I got in that GameStop, deal, half off deal. So I got it for really cheap. So figured I would, but be on the lookout. Kind of an interesting game. We don't get too many games out of Korea over here at least. We're starting to, but we don't get too many, so always interesting when we do. But that is my PlayStation 5 collection for 2023. Once again, I'm really just happy with where the PlayStation 5 is. I think it's a really good system. It's big and ugly, but interface is good. It's just really pleasant to use, and I'm just happy with where it's at and think it's pretty good. So I appreciate you taking the time to watch this. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Comment down below with your favorite PlayStation 5 games, any games that you think I should check out. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Game Room Tour coming next week. Thank you for watching.